Good evening. The economic and health crisis that has gripped the nation and the world is now moving at warp speed on two fronts. By the closing bell on Wall Street on Friday, the markets wrapped up their worst week since the 2008 financial crisis. Meanwhile, the biggest cities and state governments are sounding the alarm for critical medical equipment that is in short supply. And governors of California, New York, Illinois, and Florida are issuing sweeping new restrictions to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus. The congressional response is where we begin tonight. That is where the action is in Washington, with a $1 trillion economic rescue plan under consideration. Joining us tonight at this difficult time are four reporters who have worked hard all week at the White House and at the Capitol, and from home, like many of you. Like you, they are doing their best to keep reporting and asking the questions that must be asked of people in power. Nancy Cordes, Chief Congressional Correspondent for CBS News, who joins us from Capitol Hill. Jake Sherman, Senior Writer at POLITICO and co-editor of Playbook. Eamon Javers, Washington Correspondent for CNBC. And here at the table is Yamiche Alcindor, White House Correspondent for the PBS NewsHour. Nancy, we begin with you. You're covering the Senate negotiations about this $1 trillion package. Where do those talks stand at this hour?
Well, we saw Leader Schumer and Leader McConnell, the Democratic and Republican leaders in the Senate a short time ago, and they said, Bob, that they are making good progress, but they don't think that they are going to make that self-imposed deadline of working out all the details tonight. More likely, this will spill over into tomorrow. That does still enable them to possibly be on track to vote on this very massive economic package on Monday. The sticking points, Schumer said, have to do with this Marshall Plan for hospitals, as Democrats call it, making sure that hospitals around the country have the protective gear they need. He said that the two sides are making great progress on that front. The other sticking point, state stabilization funds, making sure that states who essentially run out of revenue because of this crisis have a backup. And that's a debate because some Republicans will argue they should have had a rainy day fund. Some Democrats are arguing they could never have foreseen this. So the question is, should they get more funds? How large should those packages be?
Jake, you track Speaker Nancy Pelosi so closely. If Leader McConnell and Senator Schumer come together on an agreement in the next 24 to 48 hours, will House Democrats move to quickly pass that legislation?
That's the question of the hour, Bob. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Nancy Pelosi is playing it close to her vest. The question we all have to consider is Chuck Schumer acting as a proxy? Does he have Nancy Pelosi's back? Is he taking her interests to the table? Now, there are some signs this evening that, yes, he is. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have spoken several times to Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, himself a former Democrat who was active in Democratic fundraising circles for many years, and somebody who just worked with Nancy Pelosi on a large-scale package just a couple weeks ago to help deal with the early stages of the coronavirus. But listen, the big challenge for House Democrats, and this is going to seem crazy perhaps, but they literally cannot bring the House of Representatives back to Washington in a meaningful way. Two members of the House have tested positive for the coronavirus. Another dozen or so that we know of, and we don't know of everybody, but another dozen or so that we know of, members have been sequestered, have quarantined themselves over concerns that they might have it. So it's unclear mechanically how they will pass this bill. Now, they could do it by unanimous consent, but remember, this is a $1 trillion, possibly $2-3 trillion package. But I do anticipate sometime Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this bill will pass. I'm not sure there won't be bumps. As you know, Bob and Nancy, from covering this stuff for so long, there will be bumps on the road, but I do anticipate the incentive is there for everybody, for McConnell, Schumer, Pelosi, and Kevin McCarthy.
Jake, quickly, is there any talk of remote voting for the House of Representatives?
Something that Nancy Pelosi has avoided for a long time. I don't think she could rule it out much longer. She didn't rule it out on a phone call. Her leadership didn't rule it out on a phone call last week. I think it's possible, but there are a lot of perils mechanically. The technology is not there, and we just saw the Iowa Democratic Party have a tough time in its caucus with remote voting itself.
Eamon, you track the markets, you cover the White House. Speaker Pelosi has been working closely with the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, to try to cobble together a bipartisan agreement. What would it mean for the economy if Congress can't come together in the coming days?
I mean, absolute disaster, Bob. I mean, we're already looking at an absolute economic national tragedy here. That the jobs report next time around is going to show job losses in the millions from what's happened here with the economy over the past couple of days. We are 10,000 points on the Dow below where we were at the highs, and this is just getting started. The question that I come back to is, if you look at a $1 trillion bill, I mean, this is a $24 trillion economy. If you're turning a number of industries down to zero in terms of revenue, I'm talking airlines, restaurants, anything that involves a large gathering of people, hotels, all of it going down to zero. You walk around towns anywhere in this country right now, and you're going to see almost zero economic activity. That is an epically bad problem for all of those industries simultaneously. We've never seen anything like this in economic history. A $1 trillion bill isn't even going to come close to covering the damage economically that we're going to see here. The question is, what happens to all of those millions of Americans who are losing their jobs right now? I don't think Congress fully understands the scale of the economic wipeout that's happening right now.